Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the absolute visual marvels of the reef aquarium world, the torch coral. Just picture those mesmerizing, sweeping tentacles swaying gently in the water. It's literally a captivating sight, right? But keeping these beautiful creatures thriving isn't just about dropping them in a tank and hoping for the best. No way. There's a core antagonist we have to fight against every single day, and that is environmental instability. So we're going to break down exactly what it takes to completely master this showpiece coral.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. First, we'll meet the torch coral. Then, we'll cover water quality and stability, dialing in light and flow, placement and target feeding, and finally, those vital signs of success.
So what exactly is it? The torch coral, or scientifically, Euphyllia species, is a highly prized large polyp stony, or LPS coral. It gets its name, of course, from those amazing sweeping, tentacled torches. Now you might be looking at it thinking, wow, that looks incredibly exotic and maybe a bit intimidating to keep. But actually, the reality is it's surprisingly forgiving. Well, forgiving as long as its basic needs are met, that is. You absolutely have to respect its natural boundaries if you want it to truly thrive.
And that brings us to the golden rule of keeping these corals happy. It all comes down to one simple, undeniable truth. Stability beats quick fixes. Every time. As reef keepers, we're constantly fighting against drastic chemistry swings. Our ultimate goal here is to create a perfect, consistent microclimate right there in your glass box, perfectly mirroring the predictable nature of the ocean.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 1, water quality and stability.
You see, out in the wild, nature provides this absolutely flawless foundation. Our job is to meticulously mimic that exact environment in the aquarium. To keep your torch coral's tissue looking plump, full, and expansive, you kind of need to think of these water parameters as the essential utilities for your tank. I'm talking clean, well-oxygenated water with low dissolved waste. You've got to maintain strict control over nutrients and organics to prevent those nasty chemistry swings we just talked about. And how exactly do you pull that off? Well, a reliable skimmer and a properly mature filtration system are an absolute must. They are the key factors that prevent stress and keep that water pristine day in and day out.
All right, let's move on to Section 2, dialing in light and flow.
When we talk about light and flow, we're really entering the Goldilocks zone. Too much or too little of either doesn't just slow things down, it causes immediate, severe stress. Think of light as the coral's fuel. Finding that perfect balance is absolutely crucial. Most torch corals do incredibly well under moderate reef lighting. If you give them too little light, well, that slows their growth down to a crawl and really reduces that beautiful tentacle extension we all want. On the flip side, overly intense light is a total shock to their system. It can actually cause them to bleach out and make those tentacles pull back defensively. A great pro tip is to introduce the coral gradually. Start it off in a mid to lower zone in your tank and just slowly adjust its placement over days or even weeks until you find that moderate to strong sweet spot.
And flow is just as critical as light. Now, what's really interesting about this is how natural ocean currents work. They gently sweep away sediment and deliver vital nutrients right to the coral. So you want a directed, moderate to strong flow in your own tank. But, and this is a big but, if you look at your coral and its tentacles are just violently whipping around like they're in a hurricane, that tissue is going to get super irritated because it's constantly being slammed against its own skeleton. If you see that happening, you've got to step in. Reduce the turbulence or just re-aim your power heads to create a much smoother, more laminar flow pattern.
Next up, Section 3, placement and target feeding.
Now we're shifting our focus from environmental controls to the actual physical interactions happening inside your tank. Because let's face it, corals are actively competing for survival. There is literally an invisible warfare happening on the reef, and you have to plan your layout around it. Torch corals can, and absolutely will, sting neighboring corals if they get too close. They even release chemical signals that can stress out other animals in the tank. Because of this intense competition, you absolutely must give them ample space. Give them room to breathe and avoid crowding. You also have to think about your flow. Remember that smooth flow we just talked about? Well, it can actually carry those stinging cells down current into other corals. So planning your layout thoughtfully reduces all these direct physical and chemical conflicts. Now, while torch corals do capture some nutrients straight from the water column, target feeding is like a real game changer. It can seriously accelerate their color and growth. Offering small, meaty foods like appropriately sized mysis shrimp, maybe using a feeding tool, works absolute wonders. But caution here, you have to carefully balance this. Keep the feeding amounts modest and always remove any uneaten food. If you skip that step, you run a huge risk of causing nutrient spikes, which, as we know, completely undermines all that water stability we just worked so hard to build up.
So what does this all mean? With everything dialed in, the pristine water, the Goldilocks light, the perfect flow, the right food, how do you actually know your coral is thriving? Let's take a quick moment to look at the practical, real-world observations you need to make in your aquarium.
Which brings us to our final section, signs of success.
It's time to learn how to really read and interpret your coral's physical cues. You need to know exactly how it's feeling. Luckily, there are 3 absolute, undeniable benchmarks of a happy, properly acclimated torch coral. First, you want to see expanded tentacles for extended periods of time. We're looking for really vigorous extension. Second, you should see steady, consistent, vibrant color under your specific lighting setup. And third, you want to see a consistent, eager response when you offer it food. If you are observing all 3 of these things, congratulations, you are nailing it.
But hey, sometimes things don't look so great and you need a strict troubleshooting protocol. This step-by-step approach is your best friend here. Step 1 is all about observation. Keep an eye out for repeated shrinking, lost color, or tissue recession. If you spot any of that, immediately move to Step 2. Systematically review your flow direction, your lighting intensity, and your water quality stability. Then comes Step 3, and honestly, this is the most critical part. Make small adjustments. Actually, let me emphasize that. Never, ever make multiple sweeping changes all at once. When things go wrong in a reef tank, patience and tiny, isolated tweaks are your only real path back to stability.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with one final, very important thought. A consistent routine creates a thriving showpiece. So ask yourself, are you out there chasing quick fixes, or are you building true, lasting stability? Because prioritizing long-term stability, that is exactly what separates a struggling setup from a breathtaking, show-stopping reef. I really hope this deep dive into torch coral care leaves you feeling inspired and totally ready to master your own aquarium.